Jodi, let's just start simple. So to give me a bit of a background of yourself.
I'm a South African photographer. I started September 1993 under the late Ken Oosterbroek. I covered the 94 democratic elections in South Africa, and after 3 years of working at a newspaper, I felt I wanted to go more in depth into the projects that I was taking on, and I was fortunate to be nominated for the World Press Masterclass in 1996, and from there I started working for international magazines and newspapers, and after that, more recently I'm working more on my own projects, creating books and exhibiting. And I also mentor and teach younger photographers photography and help them through their projects.
You've got many highlights you have in your photography history that you must be immensely proud of. Are there a couple that stand out?
Well, I suppose finding photography, because I was a media planner before I was a photographer. So when the piece of paper fell on my friend's leg at the Market Theatre, advertising the Market Photography Workshop, that was a highlight. I suppose even though it was very traumatic, covering the 1994 elections was a huge highlight because I was photographing history. Being able to work in 58 different countries is a highlight. Winning 9 World Press Awards, actually 10, was a highlight. And what happened after the photograph of Bibi Aisha for Time magazine and then traveling to 20 countries in 1 year, not with my camera, but to speak about my work, was a huge personal highlight for me. And then all my 4 books that have been produced have been a highlight in my life, and exhibiting. I mean, I think as a photographer, you have to, it's like your first day. Every time it's not that simple, just, oh, I feel like doing a project, I've been in this for 20 years and, I know I'm going to get the funding. It doesn't work that way. It's like the beginning all the time.
And having been to so many countries, you've probably seen a lot of South African photographers. Perhaps we're not at a certain standard, or we don't experience certain things for South African photography?
No, I think that South African photography, maybe not in the world of press, but definitely in the world of documentary and art, is very well seen internationally. And we have very, very powerful photographers that are doing exceptionally well in the world. In the press situation, it might be slightly different and more difficult.
In your experience with African and its photographers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there always have been African photographers. I just think that maybe more privileged countries have had more exposure, but now with the internet, it's more globalized, and yeah, I mean, there are photographers all over the place, and I think that the emphasis in the world right now, photographically in exhibiting and in the arts and all forms, is about bringing people that had less exposure to the forefront.
And the Africa Photo Awards, do you think it's a good initiative?
I think the African Photographic Awards is a good initiative because I think it opens up the space for photographers from all over Africa to submit work, and for even younger photographers who maybe have had less exposure, it's a good opportunity to have that exposure.
And where would you like this competition to go?
I would like this competition to not be directed to a certain kind of photography. I would like the competition to be open to where photography is right now. So I would like it not to just be directed to, say, a literal perspective of the world, but more a perspective where photographers put in their own thoughts and style within the work, as well as that we allow for photography that, just say someone decides they add more contrast to their work or desaturation to their work, or they add 3 elements in their work. As long as it's not kitsch and it has something, a strong message, I think that is important.
All right, when selecting, I mean, you've obviously done this a few times, but what advice or what would you say to someone when they've got thousands of photographs and now they're looking at different categories? How would one select a photograph?
Photographers, I think, are their own worst enemy because I think they're very close to their work and they don't want to let some of their babies go because they've been there, they've experienced it, but they have to be strict in their editing process. So less in a way is more. And you really critically have to look at each image and see what it has to offer. If it's a full body of work or even if it's a single image, what does that say? And you have to take the personal kind of feeling that you experience out of the picture. Or you can ask people that you respect and appreciate their opinion to help you in the editing process. But definitely less is more, and don't enter anything if it's really not good.
I take it perhaps that, I mean, you come across as an emotionally charged person. Did you find in the beginning this was difficult for you, asking opinions, or maybe people not agreeing with you on certain things about their...
I think you should always stick to your guns, because I remember many years ago I entered a ballroom dancing picture into the sports category, and I remember a number of people saying to me, it's not sport, and I said yes it is, and I did land up winning an award for it in the sports category. So I've always believed in challenging yourself, but what I've seen by being a jury member on quite a few competitions is that people are their own worst enemy. You start seeing one image and you think, wow. Then the next 3 images from the same photographer in the series are like bad. So what happens is you think, oh no. And so editing for me is as critical as taking a photograph.
So I'm going to ask like a sort of personal question, maybe. I think a lot of people want to ask, what is next for Jodi Bieber?
Well, I've created a project called #I, which is about young people. And for me, the reason I did that is that I mentor quite a lot of young people's photography. And I see that their vision of Africa or South Africa is completely different. They have their own narrative. They want their world to be their own world, and they don't want to be stuck in the past. And so for me, it's been shown at Constitution Hill, and that's not enough. So because I'm a one-woman show, I now need to find avenues to create the book, to have it exhibited in other provinces in South Africa, and for it to have a life overseas as well. Once I've completed that, I'll move on to my new body of work.
And one final question. As a photographer that has been shooting for decades, but in the new technology of the world, it's been very, it hops from screen to screen to screen. And you've exhibited in your prints. How important are prints to you?
How important are prints? Well, for me, prints are very important. They're important in terms of, like, even if I'm editing work, I've just got a normal print at home. I take normal Tipex paper and I print out the work that I'm going to edit, because on the screen it's more difficult. And for me, it's better to put them like playing cards and you can go to your bedroom, lie in bed, have a look at them, you can put them down, you can move them around. And for me, that is more important. The print on the wall is beautiful. I mean, that is something that, I don't know, it's something completely different to just experiencing it on the internet. That's why I think books are so critical, because it's something other than just the work on the internet, and it will last much longer than we will.
Thank you very much.